Hi, everyone. Happy Disability Pride Month. My name is Nico Meyering. I use he, him pronouns. I'm a white man with blonde hair parted off to the side. I'm wearing large dark glasses, a bright green shirt, and I'm seated in front of a purple background. I'm honored today to be joined by a disabled advocate and author, Tylia. Tylia, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, my name's Tylia. I'm an Afro-Latina. I'm wearing a yellow dress, and in my background, you should see my Stomping on CP logo that is black, and there's an avatar of me in a green shirt, and my name's Tylia. I am a self-published author, disability activist, and radio show host owner. I was born with cerebral palsy, spastic dysplasia, the most common form of CP, but that has never taken away from my will and determination. And there you go.
That is a fantastic elevator speech. Thank you so much.
Not a problem. Thanks for having me.
Tylia, what does disability pride mean to you?
Disability pride means to me just being unapologetically disabled and taking pride on the things that you need and what you need to succeed in this society as a disabled person.
Mm-hmm.
And it means embracing yourself and celebrating the community that you support.
I think it's so important to underscore that disabled people deserve to be celebrated and deserve to be recognized, right?
Oh, for sure. Like people, like a lot of the ableist people that don't understand the point of disability pride month, they're like, I wouldn't want to celebrate being disabled. And it's like, that's because you don't know the perks.
Mm-hmm.
Like going to Disney World and getting in line first to take a picture with Mickey Mouse. Like, come on.
Is that a perk that you've taken advantage of?
Yes, and considering the fact that I live in Central Florida all the time.
Very nice, very nice. I love it. Yeah, I feel like so often the people that push back against the concept of disability pride are not coming from the disability community itself.
Yeah, exactly. It's usually the ableist Karens. That's what I like to call some people that are ableist. Or it's usually the people that are not educated and just want to know more of why we're prideful.
I think it's an act of rebellion and an act of revolution to accept yourself and to celebrate yourself when you have spent so long in a disabled body that might tell you, or you might get words externally that say things like you're not worthy being celebrated. You know, you're not anybody who brags about themselves as being boastful, and that's not you. So
No.
you go praising yourself.
Yeah, and it took me a while to accept my physical disability. And when I was 18, I finally got to the point where I was able to look myself in the mirror and say, damn, I'm one hot disabled woman and I'm ready to strive and take pride in that. And that's when I first started getting into advocacy is at 18. So
I'm sorry that it took you 18 years to live in a body that you find value in, but I'm so glad you got there.
Thank you. It was a long journey, but I think finding my passion for writing helped that. And finding my passion for radio helped that as well. So I'm incredibly thankful because each and every day I get to tell my story, but also help people celebrate their pride through the projects that I do. So,
what are some lessons that you've learned as a result of your disabled journey?
Is that there's only one version of myself, and I have to embrace it and give people the gift of the lessons that I learned as well.
I love it. So I want to flip this question on its head now. Are there any lessons that you've had to unlearn as a result of being disabled?
Yes, internalized ableism and spreading inspirational porn.
Mm-hmm.
Because growing up as a kid, we didn't have the proper disability representation and we dealt with having to be fed internalized ableism.
Mm-hmm.
If you were born in the 90s, there was no dialogue on how to speak to a disabled person without them internalizing ableism. And within our ableist society, we are taught, oh yeah, we're special needs and we're this, and you're supposed to be an inspiration. When we don't live to be inspirations, we live to live.
I love that saying. We live to live.
Yeah, it's like the way society looks at us is like we're mannequins on display, and whenever they need inspiration, they look at us like, ooh, this
You
is
take us
so
off the
great.
shelf.
And I'm like, no, I don't want to be an inspiration. I want to be a human being that identifies as disabled, and it is what it is.
Right.
I take pride in that. I'm not ashamed in that. Like, I don't like using alternative words to describe my disability. I'm disabled. I have cerebral palsy. Call it what it is.
Right, right. Let me ask you something. Is there, within the inspirational label, do you think that there's some nuance? Because you have done a lot of cool things. So do you draw a distinction between being called inspirational simply by virtue of living a disabled life versus being called inspirational based on your achievements?
No, I don't like being called inspirational just because I wheeled my chair down the street today and I smiled and people don't know what my story is. Like, I could be a complete negative Nelly and here you are praising me for it because you see me doing the average thing that you would do if you were in my position to survive.
Yeah, I was born in 1988 and I often got the inspirational talk because my disability was much more visible when I was younger. And now I look back in those times and I think about, if I stopped to talk about how I was inspirational and, shed some tears and give big speeches and have like background music playing behind me, I would never get anything done. I would probably still be in grade school.
Then that's how they make it seem like they want that person's in a wheelchair and they're living life. That is so inspirational. But what if I was just a mean person?
Yeah.
Get to know me and my story before you label me an inspiration just by the simple fact that you see me in a chair.
So when I've asked this question to other respondents for this project, what they've had to unlearn, a lot of them do say internalized ableism. So Tylia, how does internalized ableism show up for you?
Well, I can tell you a story. Sometimes people will give me a saying in my books, because I'm a published author, and sometimes my people will come to me with the saying and I have to tell them no, publishing this because the way it's just so internalized ableism. Like, for example, one time they told me, oh, you should publish a book that says, I don't see disabilities, I see possibilities. And I said, we're not doing that because that's internalized ableism. You want society to see disability with possibility. You don't want the opposite. And that's what people don't understand. Like, even having to explain ableism to like my family members that always told me those things, and they're just now learning it and they're getting the language, but it's a hard debate because they grew up in a society where that was okay to say versus now it's not. So it's like finding the medium ground between education and understanding and teaching people that this is not the way you do it now.
I'm so sorry that you've had to push back against that approach within your own family, but I'm glad they're getting it now.
No, I mean, and it's fun. They're like, thank you so much for teaching me that. It's a great thing that I get to do that, and I hope that they carry it on for the next generation of family members.
This kind of leads me to my last planned question. What is one thing you want able-bodied people to know about disability life?
Okay, what I want able-bodied people to know is that we're just like you, and you shouldn't be ableist or judging toward anyone because you can wind up just like one of us.
That's true.
You could be just like us, but we don't get the chance to be like you.
That's very insightful. I like
Because
that a lot.
Because in my case, I wasn't given the option whether I wanted to be able-bodied or not. I was just diagnosed with cerebral palsy, and it is what it is. I was dealt that lemon versus ableist people. They weren't dealt those lemons.
Mm-hmm.
And until they humbled themselves to see that, hey, I could be just like you, it's not going to get better. But you know what we could do? We could educate, we could motivate, and we could teach. Never get angry, because angry controls you.
That's true. I often think that anger is an energy that can be at times channeled towards constructive means, but there is a risk to it as well. You're correct.
Yeah, there is a risk to it. That's like one day I was at a restaurant out in Claremont, the Claremont Brewery, and this man comes up to me with the God is for real shirt. And he asks me, "Can I pray for you?" I said, "No, you may not pray for me because I don't want to be cured. There's nothing wrong with my situation. I'm happy to be disabled. But what you could pray for is more awareness on cerebral palsy." And I gave him my information and places where he can go to find out how he could bring awareness to cerebral palsy. And it was a win-win. And my cousin at the time, who's 21, she's like, "You handled it so well. I would have been pissed off." I was like, what good is it? What good would that have been? That would have just been telling that guy that I needed more prayer because I'm miserable. No, instead you flip it and you educate the person.
I am so glad that you were able to make that a positive interaction. That takes a lot of work and energy on your part.
Yeah, and it took me years to get to that point, because for a while I hated it when people came up to me and I would get, but over time I learned, okay, this is what I need to do, this is how I need to do it, and there's proper steps on how to do it. You just have to learn steps work for you as a person with a disability, not even advocating in itself, because a lot of people think in order for you to know these things, you have to be a disability activist, and it's like, no, you don't. Like, I was just an average 18-year-old when I started stomping on CP, and I didn't know much about advocating through the internet and the computer, but I learned along the way from people. So
fantastic. Tylia, this is now your chance in this interview to promote yourself, any projects you've recently completed, projects you have coming up, any social media profiles you want to share. Where can people find you online?
Well, you could find me on Amazon at www.amazon.com/Tylia L Flores if you want to check out my books. If you want to follow me on social media, that is at Stomping on Cerebral Palsy with Tylia. That's for Facebook. Twitter is Stomping on CP01. And what else? Instagram is Stomping on CP_ with Tylia.
Thank you so much for your time today, Tylia. Have a great rest of your day.
You too.